You're listening to Factual America. Why a Baywatch documentary and why the timing?
Okay. Yeah. Easy question. So I had come off of producing a different documentary about social media, and I was on camera for a relatively successful Netflix documentary on social media as well. So I've been working with documentary filmmakers for probably the past like 4 or 5 years. And for me, even the sort of content that I consume, it's not really scripted anymore. I'm always drawn to either documentaries or docuseries because they're so well produced now and they're actually very entertaining. It's not just like, after school specials for the most part, it's just like a boring informational video. It's actually entertainment. And I feel I learned something at the same time. For me personally, I always grew up being so saturated and almost obsessed with media and what like Hollywood was, throwing at us. And I grew up in Middle America. I grew up in Wisconsin in the cold, landlocked. We grew up on lakes, but we certainly weren't by the ocean. My family, traveled a little bit. Obviously we went to the ocean, but a taste of California, a taste of Baywatch, just that look, that image, sort of just a lifestyle that Baywatch was selling, not just the United States, but the world. That was always really interesting to me. Flash forward, 15 years later, I met Nicole, probably early 2000s, just out, and then, kind of knew her, but didn't know her well. And then sort of kept in contact with her on social media. And a guy at the time who I helped do his distribution deal and was a financer in a different movie, he had seen Nicole and I interact on an Instagram post, ironically. And, he's about 45, grew up with Charles in Charge and Baywatch and was the ultimate Nicole Eggert fan. So he's like, dude, how do you know Nicole Eggert? Like pretty much like hyperventilating at the mouth and like foaming. And I'm like, I don't know. I know a lot of people. I've lived in LA for 20 years. Like, I mean, she's not like my best friend, but I know her. Yeah. So he goes, dude, let's do a Baywatch documentary. And I kind of like think, and I'm like, that's fucking genius. I go, yeah. So just the timing, what I was personally into, and then having access to Nicole are really what happened. Now the financier at the end of the day dropped out, and it ended up being me and one of the other producers on it putting the money up because as we developed this story and developed the cast and characters, I just knew it was a slam dunk because the brand was so strong. So, we took the risk and put the money in ourselves. But Brian, who's the third party financier, I mean, he's pretty much the one that got us all up off our asses to actually make it happen, regardless of him being a part of the project. I mean, I'm still friends with him, so he's not upset about it. But he was pretty much the catalyst of that. And he's like, oh, dude, so you thought the idea was so good that you're just going to fucking kick me out now? And I go, sort of, yep. Sort of. And I go, it's just about the relationships, it's like who you know type thing. And Nicole, giving her as much credit as I possibly can because she deserves it. She was pretty much the quarterback in the beginning because without her access to David, to Jeremy, and a handful of the core cast members, it's not a safe investment at all. So our first call was to Hasselhoff. She reached out to David, and David was in. And once we had David, we're like, okay, Pam is great too. Pam is very important, but we can make a movie knowing we have David, attached. And then as time went on, David came on as a producer as well. So 6 months into the production, David came on as an executive producer as well. So that's sort of how it started. And Nicole started reaching out to all of the cast members she still, had contact with, which was a pretty strong number of people, core cast that, people remember. And that's, sort of how we got the ball rolling. It's kind of a snowball effect. A lot of people say no to you at first, and then like, but so-and-so's doing it. And then, so-and-so has a great experience. And then they call one of their friends that we don't have access to. They're like, you got to do this. This movie's going to be great. And it just kind of, you just hope the steam just keeps going and just builds and builds.
So Nicole, so when Matt approached you, why did you say yes?
Well, I had previously pitched a show with Baywatch cast members. I knew that there was something to be done there. And I took it to every major network, and I had about 5 or 6 of main core girls from the cast, the women from the cast. And we took it around everywhere from E to CMT, everywhere. But it was kind of as formulated in a reality version. And it just wasn't hitting the mark. It just wasn't clicking, and it wasn't working. Every network wanted us to be like in a house on the beach, or like to go down south and live in the beach. It was just all this it just didn't work. And I knew there was something to be done, and I just couldn't put my finger on it. So when Matt said a documentary, a light went off, because watching documentaries is what I do when I'm not doing anything else, and I'm a big fan. So it made perfect sense. It was kismet with their idea and me wanting to do something. So I'd been in contact, over the years with a lot of people, because, and they knew to trust me because I took them to every major network. So they knew I was serious. So it all just really worked out. It was timing.
And Jeremy,
it was really good timing.
Yeah, I mean,
I said it was very good timing.
It's like you said, it's a golden age for documentaries. Really, it's an amazing time. Jeremy, when were you approached about being on this film? And I guess there was a time probably when you must have had your doubts about whether anyone would approach you.
Something always seems to come up with the Baywatch cast or vibe, whether it's a reality show like Nicole was talking about, or a movie or a reunion. Someone's always talking about it. I don't think more than 6 months ever goes by without some kind of pitch or idea happening. Cast and crew signing. So, Baywatch can't die, sometimes it feels, unfortunately, but, regardless, Nicole and I have been close friends for a long time. We became closer friends after the Baywatch Hawaii wedding kind of TV film that we shot. I think it was 2001, around there. And I know Nicole, and Nicole always has been a trailblazer, cut from a little bit different of a cloth, set aside from the blonde, big boob types, if you will, quote unquote, so to say. She was cool. She had, I respected her mindset and her mentality, and we saw eye to eye for a long time. After Baywatch, I went on to work with, brands like Ed Hardy, Von Dutch, Christian Audigier, producing fashion shows, being of lifestyle and brand development. So when Nicole told me that she was going to do a documentary, I knew right away it would be done right, and not cookie cutter, and not that same old everybody talks about. And so there was no doubt in my mind it was a project I'd want to do and feel comfortable doing, and really show the cooler sides to the show. And when she introduced me to Matt and I met Matt, I just wanted to slap him across the face immediately.
You're not the only one.
I mean, this guy, I'm not sure if he's better looking than me or as good or buffer or leaner, but there's something there, and I just want to maybe wrestle with him. And
you sound like brothers.
I will never wrestle with Jeremy because he would kick my ass. I'm terrified of Jeremy.
I wasn't sure if I wanted to kiss him or slap him across the face. Let's put it that way. And he told me about his story. Growing up in Wisconsin, like idolizing Baywatch, watching Baywatch, being deeply affected by it. And there's a lot of people that have been deeply affected by Baywatch and or grew up watching it and or their moms and dads did somehow, some way. It seems people around my age usually have had some type of experience with Baywatch. Some people like to pretend they never watched it. That's like the first thing they like to say. Oh, yeah, I never seen it. I say, congratulations, you're 1 in a billion.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And then there's other people who will share that experience. And Matt was affected by it. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is cool. Dude is here. He's doing projects with social media on Netflix, and he's coming into this Baywatch thing, which can get a little dusty and lackluster. And I believe these two are going to breathe some really cool life into the current condition and state of the world using old information. I'm so down. I can't wait to do it.